the more you can put the power and the confidence and the trust in the hands of the consumer, and doing so with penny perfect payments and having really good data sets to be able to do that and stand behind your platform, I mean, that's huge. That's where everyone, I think, needs to be.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? This is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me in another episode of Strategy with Jason. Today we are here at Used Car Week in Canada. I'm with the one, the only, Mr. Austin Lavigne with JD Power. Austin, what's up, man? How you doing?
That is me. Thanks for having me, Jace.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it.
We got a chance to connect when we were in a digital dealer in Tampa.
We sure did. I couldn't resist that yacht.
We had some fun time. We shared a few drinks.
We
had some fun.
Yeah.
And, dude, anytime I get a chance to jam with anybody from JD Power, I'm like, yes, please, can I have another? Just because there's just so many cool data points that you guys are using and looking at and making actionable. So, before we get into it, because we're definitely going to get into that, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story.
Of course.
A, because I don't believe anybody just wakes up one day and goes, I'm going to be in the automotive industry.
Yep.
So, Austin, I'd love to kind of get your origin story of how you got started in the automotive industry.
Yeah, so I went to school at Laurier University out of Waterloo, Ontario, and it was, a business technology management program. And so, pretty heavy into the data analytics, software design analysis, systems design analysis, that sort of thing. It also had guaranteed co-op. So I got into looking at co-ops and where I could do that, and actually landed up at the Cami assembly plant in Ingersoll, which is a General Motors plant. Yeah, I was with their finance department, so I was a financial analyst there, and they really, kind of put me through the ringer with Excel. They would drop these workbooks on my desk, and they'd have formulas the size of my head and macros and stuff all over the place, and just say, "Fix it, it's not working." So that really, I was a bit of a car guy through high school and stuff, took a lot of tech courses, but then when I was with, General Motors, they were launching the new Corvettes and some Camaros, and I was like, this is pretty cool stuff. And, one of my favorite tasks was we would run the performance charts every month. And I had, as the intern, I had the joyous task of walking into the plant and posting up our charts and showing everyone how, great or not great they did. And I couldn't care less what the chart said. I was just, astounded by seeing these cars move literally from a rolled sheet of aluminum to an Equinox rolling off to some dealer lot somewhere in the world. So that's kind of where I started. Did the university thing, finished it out, ended up with a computer hardware company called startech.com out of London, Ontario. And then actually started seeing, some job postings from Carfax, who's also based out of London.
London's like the epicot,
yeah,
right?
It was cool. And it was kind of this light bulb moment that it was like, I can be an analyst and I can do the things I know I'm really good at that I've developed over the last couple of years, but in an industry I actually really care about. So I actually am one of those, unique edge cases when you watch your podcast that I actually wanted to be in auto and kind of actively pursued that. Started interviewing with JD Power because the auto data business had a big presence in London originally, and that's kind of how they ended up posting in London, and that's how I ended up with the company. So,
and what an exciting time to get really deep into auto data, right?
Absolutely.
I have kind of coined this next I'm gonna call it the next 10 years of what I call kind of data consciousness.
Yeah,
and I feel like the data consciousness around just the individual operator has become so much more than it was in the past. I mean, data was always kind of a play for the OEMs, and that's not the case anymore. I mean, I have the opportunity to talk to some amazing operators out there, and I'm telling you, 90% of the conversations I have with them is around their data, and how it's being used, right? How it's being automated, all right? How we're collecting it, how we're storing it, and there's just so many cool things. So tell me a little bit about some of the data that you're excited about working on at JD.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, it's such a cool time to be in the industry right now. There's so much changing, and there's so much revolution going on in the digital landscape and in the data landscape. And it really blew me away when I first joined the business. I kind of joined on what you might call the JD Power traditional kind of legacy side of the house with the syndicated studies. The syndicated studies, some of the consulting and tracking projects, we kind of tail off of those. And a lot of that is very OEM focused and driven, right? So that's the trophies on the car ads that everyone knows. JD Power is most dependable mid-size premium SUV.
Yep.
And so that was really cool to see how much we did with that data and how much data is actually behind those studies. It's not just General Motors paying us to give them awards.
That's good to know, just so you guys heard, all right? We can't buy those awards.
Yes, exactly. As much as every YouTuber likes to think that that's the case, no, there is real consumer data behind and a lot of it, right? And recently, this year, I've transitioned more to the Chrome data side of the house and kind of our software and data analytics side of the house. And again, kind of rediscovered and blew me away again how much data of our data is embedded throughout the entire ecosystem. So everything from like the really foundational piece of it was normalized vehicle descriptions and being able to have, a reliable fundamental database of here's how these vehicles were built, all the way back to the 70s. Like every vehicle that has been mass produced, it's like, yeah, we know how it was built and we have that data. And being able to provide that in a normalized way and in a way that's standard and well documented and digestible and consumable in a lot of different use cases, right?
Yes.
And so that's what we're seeing now. It's really cool. So I'm working with a lot of the dealer tech providers, and we have a lot of customers on the financing side of the industry.
I'm sure you got some clients here right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really well penetrated across the industry, and so the vehicle descriptions is kind of the core bread and butter.
So let's talk about use cases, because you mentioned that, right? Because I think people are hearing, oh, okay, vehicle description data. Yeah, hasn't it been around for a long time? But it's the way it's being used.
Absolutely.
All right, that's so unique. So give me a couple examples of some of those use cases.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it is, if a customer is coming to do a trade-in, or if there's, all of a sudden, I was just talking
with incredibly hot right now.
Yeah, exactly. So the amount of, velocity behind used cars right now is obviously making it a very important space. So to being able to accurately describe and spec out that vehicle, and from a dealership perspective as well as a consumer's perspective, you want to know how that vehicle was built and be confident in that marketing, because a lot of people are marketing vehicles long before it ever hits their lot, long before they've ever taken pictures of it. So we're able to supplement and be able to make that happen with our vehicle descriptions, as well as our images, incentives, and everything else in between.
Well, it just creates for a better experience,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, how often over the last 10 years I probably landed on a vehicle where it said it had something that clearly didn't have that, because it just was not being decoded properly, right? But that plays such, when it comes to the user experience, we love talking about the user experience, right? Like it's like the biggest buzzword, and for good reasons, right? It should be, but are little things that make up the biggest difference in a user's experience.
Absolutely.
And it's the data that's being presented to them is incredibly important.
Yeah.
But not only that, but it's like, how can we actually take action on that?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I mean, consumers are more and more shopping these days by what that dealership means to them, and basically picking by vehicle features. I think consumers are much less, especially younger consumers, maybe closer to my age, they're much less brand loyal. They don't really care whether it's a GM or a Honda. They're shopping by feature. They're shopping by equipment, right? So they want to know, okay, if this vehicle says it has this and I walk into the store and it doesn't, that's an immediately bad experience, right?
Does not set up for a great experience at all.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a super, super interesting time, and we work with so many different clients that are, packaging the data in so many different ways. And
so let's talk about that, because I think there's a lot of unique ways that people can actually package this data in and put it into place. Yeah. And it all kind of leads back to the user experience.
Exactly.
So, what would be one example that really kind of, sets apart from everyone else? That's just like, no, this is a way, either it's a vendor or if it's a dealer, like they're using the data and they're making it actionable in a very unique way.
Yeah, I mean, a cool use case I was working with recently, I don't know if you knew Albert from Driven IQ.
Actually, I just texted him this morning.
No way,
Talk about a small world. Yes, Albert.
He's awesome.
Albert is an amazing data guy, man.
Yeah.
Talk about, he eats it for breakfast.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident.
Absolutely. He's incredible. And he is like more energy than I thought ever you could put into an individual.
And it never stops.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what they're doing with their drive bid platform is a great example of how you're kind of putting the power in the hands of the consumer and being able to get them the highest value. So they're using our valuations data to provide, a more informed offer and value on that vehicle.
Yes.
And then they're also using our inventory platform to ensure that the dealer inventory that is consumer facing is also accurate and being provided in an optimized way that's efficient for his platform, so it's not a burden on his platform, and that he can have confidence and trust in that data that he's then presenting to their consumers. So
No, he's doing some really cool stuff. Hey, big shout out to Albert. Hey, Albert, what's up? How you doing, man? It's been a small world. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Now, data is constantly evolving, and like I said, I think we're in the era where people have become very, very data conscious. Dealers have become very data conscious. Operators have become very data conscious. All right, what do you see kind of on the horizon that gets you excited?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it right now is the movement towards shopping by payment, and everyone knows that this isn't even coming anymore.
Like payments,
we are here. Like this needs to happen, and I think it's becoming table stakes. You know what I mean? For a lot of operators and for a lot of platforms. That needs to be an integral piece, and you got to be able to do that earlier and earlier on, right? And so for us, our brand new incentives, rates, and rebates engine and data set was really, we completely revamped that. So Chrome Incentive Services is kind of the legacy solution that is pretty well penetrated out there, and we took that and said, the market really needs something that's more holistic, something for CPO and used cars as well, something with the lender rules and fees and every little piece that goes into a car payment. You know what I mean? When I was coming out of university, I think I did 4 vehicle transactions in the course of like a year. Like, I wouldn't recommend it. It wasn't.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
you spent a lot of time at dealerships.
I sure did. I certainly wouldn't recommend it, but I learned a lot about that vehicle buying process and how arduous it can be.
Yes.
And where that stat comes from, that people would rather get in a cage with an alligator than get like people throw these things around, right? But I think the more you can put the power and the confidence and the trust in the hands of the consumer, and doing so with penny perfect payments and having really good data sets to be able to do that and stand behind your platform, I mean, that's huge. That's where everyone, I think, needs to be. I've
actually experienced this personally myself just recently. Okay, so wife said that we need a new family vehicle. The Nissan Armada that we have is just having enough problems. I'm looking at the dealer that actually sold it to me. I'm staring at him right now. But he doesn't build them. He doesn't build them. But so she's like, we need something new.
Yeah.
And I said, that's cool, And it was a Hyundai Palisade.
Yep.
All right. I went onto the website, built out the Palisade that she wanted.
Yep.
I was like, that's cool.
Yep.
I reached out to the dealership. I said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. We don't have them. They're coming in. Great. What's the payment? And I'm not kidding you. To the penny, the exact same payment that I received from the OEM is what the dealer gave me.
That's huge.
And there was just this moment of like, oh, okay, cool. Here's my credit card.
Yeah.
Do the deposit. And
do the thing.
But I think about that, and I just, for the last 15 plus years, that has not been the case.
No.
So I can understand from the consumer side why there's always kind of been this like maybe mistrust in the data that's being presented on dealerships' websites, because I'm going to the OEM website, then I'm going to the dealership's website, I'm getting 2 entirely different pieces of information, and then when I go into the dealership itself, sometimes I get a third level of entirely different information. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, let alone going for the credit app and then your trade-in value, and it's like you gotta spend 4 hours across 5 different dealerships to get a deal that makes sense to you as a consumer. And that's what I realized. And I was like, this car shopping thing really needs a lot of work. Like, this is not awesome, but. I think there's a lot of really good platforms out there that are making it a lot better, and I think a lot of dealer and dealer groups are really putting a lot of focus behind this. And those are the ones that are going to be ahead in 3 to 5 years' time or in a year. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that are ahead now that were doing it 2 years ago.
Well, and I think that fulfills the shopping experience.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, a lot of times we're talking about the digital retailing experience or DR tools, right? And when they first came out, I was kind of like, wait a second. Do we skip a step?
Yeah.
what happened to the shopping experience?
Right.
Why can't we not better that? And I think that, and I love that because this is where you're working on. You're working on bettering that shopping experience. And that shopping experience makes me feel more comfortable, so that when they sent me the link for their DR tool to go through and finish out my finance portion, add my accessories and the extended warranty and everything, I was like, okay, that's easy. And it was just done and done.
Absolutely.
And yes, I'm one of those consumers. I don't necessarily need to come into the dealership. That's okay. I understand not everybody's like that. When you're in the car business long enough, it's, vanilla or chocolate. It's all the same, like whatever. It stays the same. Well, that's awesome, man. Hey, Austin, for everybody out there that's watching and listening right now who would like to connect with you, maybe follow along with you, your journey, or learn a little bit more about you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, I mean, reach out on LinkedIn, Austin James Lavigne on LinkedIn, or austin.lavigne@jdpa.com. Happy to have a conversation and here to learn more about the industry. So
awesome, man. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.